people that will be speaking will have their microphones unmuted so that we can all hear people that are speaking. So the purpose of this press conference is to share with the members of the media some of the decisions of the Eastern Cape Provincial Government Executive Council. We have invited MECs to interact with the members of the media. We also have journalists that are here at the Bishop Masaka Memorial Facility, and we also have journalists that are joining us through the Microsoft Teams, and some are watching on other platforms. So we're going to go through the statement, and MECs are going to focus on different aspects of the statement, and then after that we will take questions from the members of the media. Okay. Guys, please switch off your mic there. Okay. Thank you. So the Executive Council held a meeting yesterday, the first ordinary meeting for the current, for the new year 2021. The first meeting that the Council had was a special meeting. So the provincial government at this meeting affirmed its decision to continue with the implementation of programs as part of building a capable state, capable, ethical, and developmental state in the province. Okay. The Eastern Cape Provincial Government affirmed the continuation of the implementation of programs as part of building a capable, ethical, and developmental state through strengthening of our IGR and DDM model. The Executive Council is calling on municipalities to improve provision of services to the people of our province so that communities continue enjoying a better life by getting best services from their municipalities. The Executive Council notes with concern that there are some municipalities that are struggling to ensure provision of basic services to our people due to a number of factors. The Executive Council encourages municipalities to use this period of budget review to reprioritize their budgets to respond to issues of disaster and pressing needs for services. The Executive Council also welcomed the firm action taken by the MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in enforcing compliance with local government legislations insofar as the Code of Conduct for Councillors is concerned. We also have here outcomes on the provincial finances of government. I will hand over to the MEC for Finance, MEC Mlungisi Mvogo, to take us through the outcomes on the provincial finances. Over to you, MEC Mvogo. If you can please unmute MEC. Thank you.
I'm unmuted, I suppose. Thank you very much, Mr. Slash. Good morning to the MECs and good morning to the media contingent that we have here. On provincial finances, what we tabled in the executive was to indicate how far have we moved, given that, as you would know, that COVID-19 has affected a number of departments in many ways, especially departments that have infrastructural projects that they had to implement. But as a province currently, at the end of December actually, our provincial expenditure has improved. We are sitting at 74.6% expenditure rate So you would know that we have a budget of 74.6% expenditure rate. We have a budget of 84 billion rand. So the 74.6 translates to about to 62.7 billion rand. That is an indication that by the end of the financial year we would have performed better given the circumstances of COVID. The executive council resolved that we must try by all means to spend funds by the end of the financial year. And as Treasury, as we are monitoring in Treasury, our target for December was at 63 billion rand. So a performance of 62.745 billion rand is an indication that we will be able to spend as a short time, because the difference is just about a billion responses. So that's our overall performance as of December 2020. And the second matter is to do with the procurement plan. Because in order for us to be able to spend, we must ensure that the procurement plans adhere to procurement plans as departments. We, as Treasury, we are giving assistance to the department to ensure that they stick to the procurement plan, because that's the only way in which they are going to be able to perform better. The most important issue that I think I want to raise is that there's a challenge in many departments of planning. That is why now the Treasury is taking the upon itself to ensure that we give feedback to all departments in terms of what was the plan, how to do plan, and we also assist to training of the SCM units in the department to ensure that we stick to what is in the plan, and never issue out or implement the plan that they did not produce. So the Treasury is ensuring that it is giving the feedback to the department, and is also ensuring that it's giving training to the units that actually give the procurement plans of the various departments. So so with regards to procurement plans, we are providing assistance to all departments to ensure that. Thank you very much, Mr. Judge.
Sound is very bad. Thank you, MEC. You can continue, MEC, to.
Yeah, okay. There seems to be some echo, but I'm hoping that you will endure. I don't know where it comes from, because I'm only connected.
Isuka le echo. Kasicime so speaker nje. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. The next one would be COVID-related procurement. You would know that since the declaration of the national disaster on March, we injected funds into the various areas of our COVID-19 containment and mitigation strategies. These areas include upgrading of existing health facilities, procurement of personal protective equipment, provision of financial relief to business in the province. So as the provincial treasurer, what we did was to identify a basket of areas where we could actually cut the funding to ensure that we have enough funds for the identified. And some of those areas which we have included subsistence and struggle, which we had to slash for 30 to 40%. This was all done to ensure that there is funding that is available to deal with COVID. As of the November, the departments and the public entities procured to the value of 1.24 billion. And of this amount, 1.23 billion relates to orders placed by departments, while 9 million relates to orders placed by entities. And orders amounting to 128.9 million, which is 74% of the total amount that we placed within the Eastern Cape-based suppliers. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we embarked on a program to repair, renovate, and refurbish various health facilities in the province. And as of November, the province awarded 86 contracts to the value of 588.4 million, and contracts to a total value of 531.4 million, which constitutes 90%. Those contracts were awarded to Eastern Cape-based service providers. So all of we published. This is an issue that I think the media has been inquiring about. We published all those that benefited from COVID procurement. Not only did we publish the amounts and the items procured, but we also published the directors or shareholders of the various entities. As of September, then, National Treasury, with a circular, wrote to all provinces to indicate or to instruct that all procurement would follow the normal procurement route. And each month, each department is supposed to report both to us and to National Treasury. And I'm certain that all of those who visit the National Treasury site would see that National Treasury then publishes the expenditure in the provinces, the items procured, and the companies that benefited. And that is what relates to COVID-19 related procurement. I will stop there and come back later on with the economic recovery plan. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MEC. We will now request MEC Gomba to talk to the issues of medico-legal and also provide updates on COVID-19 as per the reports that were presented to the Executive Council on which decisions were taken. MEC Gomba, over to you and welcome back.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Mr. Stlesha. Good morning to media and whoever is in the room and my colleagues. Well, allow me to make a summary of the medical legal issues, which are not necessarily going to the specific cases, but rather as to the processes. We shall all remember that the issue of medical legals as an issue in the Department of Health is quite a challenge, except on the that much as it is issues that are not avoidable, but they're not issues that the department is able to budget for, precisely because that is not the norm. So in a sense, as cases come up, those are cases that actually eat into the budget of the department, which is about service delivery. It is a case, therefore, that I want to start with and start to say the norm has been getting through and coordinating the issues of medical legals, not only in the Department of Health, but rather taken to the office of the Premier. At the office of the Premier, we are now at a stage where the team has been assembled, team of administrators and everybody else has been assembled, and therefore the process shall be that all these, as they come to the department, they no longer come to the Department of Health, but rather would go straight, because if you look at how we are, we're starting to be challenged at the area of pioneer, which then suggests that there has been a weakness in responding to what the courts are requesting. Whether we have a document or not, we should have done that. It should not at any stage be having such costs. The second one is exactly the process of having to evaluate the prospects of looking at us defending peace. What then is critical in this that we have done is that at some stages the department and with the prophets, we got to a point that understood that medical leaders, in particular as we deal with cerebral palsy, which is the main challenge in medical leaders, is that we are dealing with people that to a certain extent need medical care, need psycho care, need almost everything, nursing and everything. And at the same time, these are people who would not live for the rest of their lives. But the way government has been challenged has been that it will pay a lump sum even if the particular incumbent would pass on, that money would still be paid. So the arrangement of the discussions legally with the state attorney are such that these payments are staggered. So looking at that, that means therefore the Department of Health will take the responsibility of playing some of the role which had to be paid for, but rather be done internally. If you look at that, it suggests that there is a breakthrough that would save government some money at a time that those patients would then be passing on. Because sometimes they have the projections for 30 years life, that life is not going to be there. So in essence, the argument is to still move on with what we are doing, continue and look at it starting as a full employment is full now, it's done. So by the new year, with financial year, the limits will be kicking off and starting on. I do want to believe that there will be a difference as we know how the issue of medical leaders is crippling the Department of Health. And I hope that is enough there. Thank you. Mr. Stasha.
Thank you, MEC. Please proceed, MEC, to the COVID update.
Okay, thank you very much. You will understand that I've just come back from COVID, and COVID has its own post-COVID. At some stage, you will hear that I'm a bit busy, so I'm back, and those are the issues. But I'm grateful that I'm back. On the issues of COVID update, as you understand how we give our reports. The report is at that 27th of January. When you look at our reports, we look at 227 new cases that we were able to see. And in those new cases, those are cases over 24 hours. And in those cases, we've looked at a majority of new cases reported in Nelson Mandela, a percentage of that maybe 19.8%, followed by Chris Ani, 15%, and Lower Chamber, 14.1%. And when we look at that, let's go back now to say, in terms of cumulative cases as a province, we're at 191,060. But out of that, we've got active cases that are at 3,443. And the majority of such cases are again in Christian, taking a share of 30.7%, and followed by Joe Gavi taking a share of 19%, and Amatolo taking a share of 15.8%. But let's now look at the recovery rate. The recovery rate of the province is 92.8%. And out of that, all other districts are above 92.8%. It's only 2 districts that currently are below 90%. And of course, it is Pisani and Joga. But as we look at what has been happening, where there's more interest in testing. If you go back from the 5th of January to date, the testing rate has increased. But what we are noticing is that percentage of specimen testing positive has dropped and decreased, which for us, it's motivating, and we are not talking about that, but it's something that we're looking at quite critically with a sharp eye. It is important that when I start to talk about that, I want for us to really drop our heads and maybe that to say we recognize that we've got people and we're giving credence to the heroes and heroines that have fallen and doing the work. However, we're still hopeful that at some stage we shall overcome. But in the last 48 hours, if I can start to say, we've had 6 deaths where 4 have happened, 2 have been in the last 24 hours. So looking at that, we are noticing a decrease in the number of newly reported deaths due to COVID. We keep on therefore being close to our audits so that we can start to have accurate statistics. But it is important to speak about hospitalization and what is it that we see from hospitalization. We look at statistics that we have from the 25th of January, where we had 1183 currently admitted cases. 69.1% is in the public sector, and 30.9% is in the private sector. And more than 84% of such people were admitted in the general ward, and 10.9% in the ICU, and 5% in high care. And if you look at that, therefore, we are wanting to say 50% of the current admissions are on oxygen and 5.9% on ventilation. These are the cases where most people are struggling to breathe as they get to our hospitals. Now I want to be specific about healthcare workers because this is exactly our so-called and our one, as one using a number of them. When we look at healthcare workers as the Eastern Cape, we've had 9,776 healthcare workers that tested positive, and out of those, 188 demised, and that gave us a fatality rate of 1.9. And affected, followed by doctors and clinical associates. And when we look at this, we are worried because there's an increase in the positivity rate among healthcare workers, in particular in the metros. If I want to then conclude, Mr. Speaker, I would say the burden of the disease due to COVID appears to be declining, but still remains high in some areas of the province. We are watching that, we are trying well our best, and just over half of the cases are in the areas I mentioned, the 4 areas, Kusani, Joe, but it's total cover rate, as I said, which is above 90. But then it is important that there is a need to strengthen identification of suspected cases, collection of specimen for testing, isolation of cases and quarantine work conduct. And we need at all stages not to drop our guard in promoting compliance to non-pharmaceutical interventions, and those they remain a central strategy in preventing further spread of infections in communities. As I finish off, I want to still plead with our community that the sooner they go to hospitals, the better. Our people, of course, we understand that when people get to hospitals, they are not open to visitations at all times. And sometimes that deters them. But the more they stay at home and go at the last minute, their assets drop, and when they go to hospital, they are at risk of passing on. because they go in too late, where even hospitals and their services cannot do much to help them. So it is important that we still keep the regulations, we still wash our hands, we still watch the distances, we still look at what is it that we wear in our masks, and we still look at how, in particular, we attend our funerals, in particular in terms of numbers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MEC. Thank you very much, MEC Gomba. We will now ask MEC Mvogo to continue with the economic recovery update. Thank you. Over to you, MEC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stretch. On the economic recovery. Now, the provincial economic recovery plan has a framework for implementation, and the framework has got goals. The two goals that we have would be economic growth and job creation. On a 5-point plan of infrastructure, development, industrialization, inclusive growth, digital economy, and public finance. And there are key results areas, which is what I'm going to be talking about. To ensure the rollout of critical economic infrastructure, provincial support to distressed businesses and farmers, consider and provide local incentives that promote retention of investors, support SMEs, business and enterprises, farmers, and informal traders for relief, smart marketing and compliance in relation to occupational. There are quite a number of interventions, but let me go straight to the key result areas. On the supports to SMEs, business and enterprises, farmers and informal traders to access the National Economic Relief Funds. As of 30th of December 2020, 713 SPASA applications have been approved from the SPASA shop scheme at the national level. And amount disbursed thus far in the province is 2.49 after 2.5 million. The Department of Small Business established a township of rural economic program, and currently 49 applications have been submitted from the province following the roadshows. For the department held the roadshows in November 2020. On the support to distressed business and farmers, job stimulus fund, and as of the 18th of January 2021, 30 of the distressed businesses were approved to a value of 21.7 million rand. Working capital is inclusive in that. 10 manufacturing, which is 16 Nelson Mandela Bay, and 4 BCM, and 6 by agro processing ranges in all the regions, 2 in BCM, 1 in Amatole, 12 Kaufman, 1 in Ocambo, 1 in Pisan, and 7 by services is spread across almost all the regions, and 6 by tourism. It also spread in many regions, KFG, the BCM, 2 Amatole, 1 Ocambo, 1 by Stella Kaufman, and retail. There are applications that are declared by the approval committee, I must say, and there are also applications that are declared by the education committee. Similarly, in the same vein, I must say that we have a number of applications that we declined, or 28 of them, for various reasons of not meeting the requirements. We are currently in the process of 44 the applications are in the pipeline for processing. The target going forward is to provide 39.2 million for distressed businesses. And the resolution that the committee will sit every week for the applications. And on the provision of sustainable food security support, a total of 30,684 households have been supported for household food production tax. ADM, Amatwale, Jokavi, Alfred Zone, and this time, and that is since the 15th of December 2020. With South African, we have yet to appoint South African still appoint the service providers. On the support to businesses to comply with the COVID-19 protocols in accordance with the alert levels, protocols have been rolled out to sector stakeholders, including SME online certification for the tourism protocols, and that is ongoing. On the critical economic infrastructure, agricultural infrastructure, which includes fencing, sharing, sheds, boreholes, irrigation scheme, is being rolled out. 9 sharing sheds have been completed locally, and 27 are under construction. 2 irrigation schemes are supported with fencing and irrigation systems, irrigation project in PSJ. 9 boreholes have been completed in Amatore, Sarapatman, and Trisa, and we have 36 under construction. A total of 13 boreholes has been drilled by the Department of Land for 2 stormwater systems are being installed in the feedlot construction has been completed. In terms of monitoring the functionality of the flight and logistical infrastructure, this is done monitoring the airports and the ports, and all currently is running very well. On the temporary employee relief scheme, as of the 30th of January 2021, 3.13 billion has been paid for 75,618 employers, and that is for 755,000 employees that have benefited. We're also monitoring the Section 159 referrals, where we have dismissals or retrenchment due to operational requirements, affected 381 employers for about 1,062 employees, 53 employers for 9,182 employees effectively. That is for the dismissals due to operational requirements, which would be the 351, and the operational requirement presentation, which would be the 1,062. On the monitoring of compliance of COVID-19, in respect of occupational health provisions, as well as the compensation for occupational injuries and diseases Act. As of the 21st of December 2020, 1,108 inspections have been conducted, and these inspections have observed an overall compliance level at 71%. Within targeted sectors and compliance levels, agriculture and forestry is at 78%, chemical at 75%, iron and steel at 62%, construction at 76%. Now, non-targeted sectors and compliance level are at a compliance level of 70%, and these include the food and beverages, government building, community sector, warehouses, and wholesalers. Relevant contravention of probation or improvement notices were issued to non-compliant employers. On procurement for local economic development as at the 10th of January 2021, the total procurement spend on goods and services, including infrastructure for programs, amounted to 10,443 and 6,410, with constituted 61%, 1.4%, which were spent on Eastern Cape-based suppliers and service providers. The 4 billion was spent on SMEs and the designated groups, 1.5 billion was spent. On the local, provide local incentives that promote retention of investors. No investors were lost due to COVID-19 and expansion with operations taking over, some featured in the National Investment Conference. So we have lost quite a number of them. On the smart marketing initiatives, Eastern Cape still remains the top of the mind of many destinations, tourists for destinations. ECPG social media platforms have shown consistent organic growth compared to the same period in 1920. The ECPG social media platforms secured a total increase in followership, whether it's Facebook, Google, and the engagement indicate the reaction of users to content increased from about 11,000 impression for the period grew from 267 to 267,000 to more than about 1.2 million. Focus now is on preparation for the campaign with the promotion of fishing and activity in selective nature reserves, which is planned for Q4, depending on which lockdown level will be. Provincial economics stimulus fund, 658 million is committed over 3 years for economic infrastructure, and 365.5 has been transferred to this project. And of this amount, 77.86 million was transferred in Q3 of this year, Q3 of 2021. On agricultural development schemes, supply of small stock to the value of 11.6 million. This budget is committed to supply small stock, and the delivery of the stock is expected to be completed by the end of February 2021. On mechanization for planting, a 24.7 million rand budget, and the mechanization contractors are on site and will be planting and spraying. The season for crop management ends by the end of February. On the supply of production inputs, 50.1 billion rand is budgeted for, and
sorry, MEC, you muted your mic. Thank you. Again. MEC? I don't know what's going on with your microphone.
I think someone is muting me. Someone is muting me. Okay, I don't know where now he muted himself because I'm unmuted and he just muted again. Okay. Let me go back. I don't know where I stopped, but you will advise. I will go back to. I think I spoke about the critical infrastructure. Hopefully you read about that. The monitoring, functional operating logistics. Hopefully you read about that. You will tell me if I didn't. You will hear on that. And the utilization of government procurement for local economic development. I spoke about that. If you didn't, please indicate you do so.
I think you were at the. Sorry, MEC. You muted when you were dealing with the last paragraph on the one talking about 15.1 million injection, the food security one.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was saying on the national development scheme, the spoke about the supply of small stock, of which 11.6 is the budget, which is committed to supply the small stock, and the delivery of the stock is expected to be completed by the end of February 2021. The mechanization for planting, whose budget is 24.7 million rand, and the mechanization contractors are on site and will be planting and spraying. The season for crop management ends by the end of February. And the supply of production inputs with budget is 50.1 million rand. And this commitment is for household production and cropping production. The delivery for food production tax has started in 5 districts. All the deliveries will be finalized by the end of January 2021. On the economic workstream of observations, yes, the economic impact of COVID-19 has devastated the tourism industry globally. In South Africa, the holiday, many of the tourism industry viewed the holiday as an opportunity to recover for the tourism sector. However, the industry again was brought down to its knees by the beach closures and the return to level 3 due to the resurgence of the infections. The impact of the closures, especially the beach closures in the industry, was huge. When ECPG did a survey, a total of 53% of respondents experienced cancellations, and 35% of respondents expressed that the closure had a significant to severe impact on their businesses, while about 10% despite the impact as minimum. In comparison to the previous years, these are the comments. Some were saying there were less bookings for December, January. Some were saying we simply had to close down, etc., etc. That's about it. Thank you very much, Mr. Church.
Thank you very much, MEC. I think there are just few announcements that will make. The first point, though, is the Executive Council has approved the monitoring of projects that are implemented by departments, and there's a team that will be from the Office of the Premier that will go to these projects to check their implementation status. And the Executive Council also sent its heartfelt condolences to families of Councillor Nombuyiselo Maginga, the Mayor of Ngushwa, and the Mayor of Ingquza Hill Local Municipality, Councillor Bambeza Kegoya. And Executive Council also sends words of comfort to all individuals admitted in hospitals for COVID-19 and other ailments, wishing them speedy recovery and good health. The State of the Province address will be delivered by the Premier on the 23rd of February, where he will provide feedback on the performance of government in the current financial year, and will also unpack government's programs to develop the province, which will be implemented starting in the new financial year. So this is the end of our press statement. We will now take questions from members of the media, the ones that are here and the ones that are joining us virtually. MECs are here to respond to your questions. We also have MECs Fundile Gade, Xolile Nqatha, Nomakhosazana Meth, which other MECs here? We have a number of MECs that are that are joining virtually, so that if there are questions that are talking to them specifically, they'll be able to respond to those. So we'll open the floor to questions. There's a mic, there's a roving mic here. Are there any questions from the floor and from the members of the media that are joining on Microsoft Teams? Please raise your hands or unmute and shout your name. Let's start here.
Oh, okay. Okay, inkosi nawa ndibulise nakubaphathiswa abasijoyine virtual. Ndicela ukubuza ku-MEC ndingusithandi wevelaphi from Isole as well as Xhosa newspaper. Ndicela ukubuza ku-MEC uGomba now that besiye sasibonile through i-statement that une-COVID-19.
He is muted, so we can't hear anything. He is muted. He has muted himself.
Okay, can you hear? Computer try chess.
Okay, niyandiva ngoku MECs?
Yavakala kiwa ngapha. Can you hear the question? Okay, let's try and sort that out, MEC, just now. Okay, Kuba chess. Nkosi Kamel.
No, bendisithi ndifuna ukubuza ku-MEC uGomba now that sasibonile uba une-COVID-19, what has been the journey like, i-recovery yakhe, i-personal experiences that she would like to share with abantu base-Eastern Cape and the greater South African public? What has been the journey like positive and thanks has recovered and goes.
Thank you. MEC, did you get the question? Because there was a complaint that there was a mute again.
What was the question?
No, it was going to MEC Gomba about her experience with COVID and what message she would send to people or what lessons she learned during the process. Okay. Any other hand? No other hand here. Okay. Can you take hands from the media that is joining us through Zoom, through the Microsoft Teams? More questions. JJ.
Yes, sir.
You can speak, sir.
Hello?
Yes, you can speak.
Okay, I have a question directed to MEC Gomba. I'd like to ask, currently, what is the amount of claims that are to the department? And in the past financial year, how much has the department paid as far as the medical claims are concerned? Thank you.
Okay. Yes, uvakale Kamel.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other hands, colleagues? Okay. There are no other hands, so MEC Gomba will hand over to you for a response to the two questions. Maybe MEC, if I could request you to also touch base on the vaccination program, just to provide an update on that. Thank you, MEC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stretcher. Maybe let me start with the easier one, which is about me and personal, while I still am comprehending with the others. Well, thanks, Tracy. For me, the experience about COVID is what I felt it it is about immediately getting to know, not to think that I have COVID, I can still deal with my own way of dealing with it. But once you know, the next step that I thought was important for me was to know how it's affecting you. It is not a hidden factor that I know that in my life I do have a comorbidity, which is high blood pressure. So for me, that's why it affected me most. Looking at that, then it suggested that I had to go back to the treatment I've been getting. I had to immediately be under supervision of a doctor, and I had to be immediately under constant supervision of clinicians. Second issue with COVID is the fact that you must listen to your body. Your body is the one that tells you immediately that something is not right this part and that is not right this part. So I'm saying, if you take those issues, for me, COVID took a bit of a time because of how it affected me. However, what I have learned is that there is no better way of dealing with COVID than immediately seeking help. Secondly, you must have support. For instance, my COVID was treated fully at home because I didn't have support. My own family, those who have been clinicians, took their time, were here to look at me. So the assistance of having doctors that were helping me was also assisted by the fact that I have moral support from my family, that is mostly, and friends that is mostly clinicians. The last thing I want to say is, it is okay that there's everything that says that people must take. But maybe my background coming from being a person who did science was also about saying, do I know what are the fumes doing to my lungs on issues that are not prescribed? So at some stages, I would want to say, people can believe what they believe, can do what they're doing, but please make sure that you get help immediately. That's all I can share for now. But at the same time, I'm wanting to take an experience that suggests that as a department, we should be able to strengthen our primary health care. Such that as people get to have COVID and everything else, people are knowledgeable of exactly what they should be doing and what support is there from the department. I will then go on to the other one, which is about, do I know how much money? Yes, thanks, JJ, for the question. This year alone, in terms of our reports, fortunately, my first day was on the 25th of February. On Tuesday, I said with the treasurer, the CFO, precisely because I was preparing for yesterday's meeting. In that meeting, I was able to know that this year alone, we're looking at 892 million, which is not money that the department did have. But unfortunately, I am not at this stage able, JJ, to give you the comparison of last year, because I know that last year was a bit lower, in the range of 762 million plus, but not yet 763. So if you look at that, the challenges that are facing the department is that we're not able sometimes to have that money, even the challenges that we have, and we face a lot of attachment in terms of both our account and our assets. Thank you very much. The last question, what Mr. Stretcher is asking to speak about is the vaccination program. The vaccination plan is actually being rolled out or is being planned, let me explain, planned at the department, however, led by national, as we all understand. As it is led by national, it does have indications of areas that are directed by national. However, it is a program that you must understand vaccination in its nature, in its simplest terms, is not different to any vaccination that the department has to carry out. However, we are understanding that this one is a bit different. Because when you talk normal vaccination of children with polio or whatever, TB or measles, it's not the same as we are going to look at the community of Eastern Cape, which is about 6.7 million. And if then we are going to vaccinate those, then the department in its planning nationally is looking at those people who are above the age of 18, and that estimate gives us about 3.9 people. And we need to be doing that by the end of the financial year 2021-22. And to reach 67% of the 2.6 that we're talking about the population, we must actually show that we're motivated immunity for almost about 67% of our community. We need to employ or assign about 571 vaccinators as and when it is required within the Eastern Cape to ensure successful implementation of the vaccine rollout program. Again, we have got 115, 1,558 in clinics and hospitals. And when we look at that, we're looking at 5,414 residential areas fully effective planning and management. That's a task that we must actually go to, and we look at sites by the end of April 2021 that are clearly identified. What we have then done in the department was to have a team of the vaccination as led by one of the chief directors and the team leader. The reason that we have a task team led by someone is the coordination of the whole project, because it has never happened that we've got such numbers that we must cover. But secondly, we take that at a high level, at the provincial level, but we also setting up teams that are at a district level. And when we look at that, we've got master vaccinators that are currently being trained by national. And those are actually looking at the segregation of the areas. Our areas will range from all areas where we've got people. But what is critical is that national has directed that our first point of call of vaccination is health workers. And the reason for that is simple. It's the fact that those health workers are these people that are still going to actually ensure that majority of our people are vaccinated. So you can't start not vaccinating them and expect them to vaccinate them. So we have got logistics and everything else, and yesterday at EXCO, we did take in principle a decision that said we must immediately look at what are the ancillary kind of costs that are coming with this program, so that we are not dropping the ball as the Eastern Cape. I do, however, want to say, Mr. Joshua, we are on record, we are on par with other provinces, and the readiness of the province is exactly at the same time. Every day, the task teams, the teams of districts are sitting. Now we're at a level where we're evaluating sites that are going to do this, whether they've got capacity, fridges are there to keep the specimen. So I do want to end this, that to say, as the Eastern Cape, we do have our rollout plan, and that rollout plan includes all stakeholders that are actually involved and working in it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MEC Gomba. Because there are no other questions, I think we've reached the end of the press conference. Thank you to the MECs for coming, and thanks to members of the media for joining the media briefing. We have come to the end. Have a beautiful day.